to the February Speakers Bureau. We have an excellent program. We are very honored to have two people here. One person seeking to become a part of our Speakers Bureau officially as a qualified speaker, and he will be going first, and I will be introducing him. Our second person is a person out of my dark past, and that's Johnny Campbell, who was came to when I was district governor. He was, and that's what they called it then. He was our premium speaker, along with Cheryl Roush, accredited speaker, and they came in and had all kinds of fun with costume and everything. Now, there's no truth to the rumor that I only invited Johnny Campbell because I wanted someone else in the room with less hair. That is not the reason we invited him. We invited him because we are impressed with him and love to have him here. And he's a good friend of our district. We do have, I did want to say a couple of words before we get started, and that is that we encourage people to be thinking about next month at the 6th of March. Also want to assume that all of our participants are actively involved with either be a participant in the contest or helping those areas and divisions as volunteers in those events that are going on, because that is a lot of work, but it's also a good leadership opportunity for you. So I'm glad to encourage you to participate or to help and run the contest, those kind of things. So those should be things we should all be thinking about. Okay, we have, and I guess I am his official sponsor. We have our first speaker, pretty much. Are you, Michael, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
All right, let's see if I can get your introduction correct. And we have, we'll have a timing report out there, somebody. Is that gonna be Sunny? Are you gonna be able to warn somebody? I don't see if Marilyn is here. She often does it, but.
Yeah, I can do the timing. What is the time?
18, 19, and 20, I guess, is probably about right. We usually say 18 to 20 is the time expectations.
All right. The green will come on at 18.
Okay. Our first person to go for their qualified speaker in District 12 this year, in the year 2021, and he didn't put this in introduction, but I wanted to mention that he is fairly new to our district, but he's been a Toastmaster for quite a while, and he is a qualified speaker in District 100. So that's something to be proud of, and we're proud that he's here going for his qualified speaker. He's a member. He's met all the guidelines that you have to meet to become a qualified speaker. And so Dr. Michael Alexander is a DTM. He has been employed as an expert witness for 25 years. He is the author of the best-selling book, Survive and Thrive on the Witness Stand. This week, he will share the techniques he has used to win $1.4 billion for his clients. Dr. Michael Anderson, a 30-year Toastmaster and 30-year Toastmaster veteran, and is seeking to become District 12's qualified speaker. Michael Alexander.
Oh, excuse me just a second here. As always happens, the technology has its own ideas of what it should be doing. And I apologize for that. Give me a second to reset, if you will. I made every effort to make certain that the technology would not be my enemy. And of course, the technology is once again my enemy. So let me start with this. I love to tell people that I am an expert witness. It's something I'm very proud of. But it confuses people because they say to themselves, I wonder what that's like. What does it mean to be an expert witness? I wonder if I could be an expert witness. Is it like television? What are the demands? So let me tell you, first and foremost, it's not what you're used to seeing. Courtroom is theater. It's a search for the truth, absolutely. It is something which is very important. But it's not simply a matter of searching for the truth and people say the truth and the judges somehow magically know. No. They have to make a decision based upon what it is they see. And that means they have to guess who has the most credibility. Now, if you're speaking in a normal situation, it's the same thing. You have to establish your credibility. Facts are a wonderful, magical idea. The reality is credibility is what makes them work in people's head. So when you go into a courtroom, start off by saying, how am I dressed? Do I present myself credibly? I dress myself properly. I speak in tones which give me credibility. I talk about things like my book, my doctoral dissertation, the places I've testified. But just plain dressing is important. I was in one case where the witness was a young, pretty, curly-haired blonde dressed nicely. She didn't have gravitas, and it brought down the way that the judge looked at her. You'll see in custody cases where women will show up wearing short skirts, low-cut tops, trying to get custody. They look attractive, but do they look like mothers? That's the question that they have to answer and the judge has to answer. So always remember that the courtroom is theater. You must present things. You must present yourself calmly, smoothly, and give them a feeling that you know what it is you're doing, no matter what seems to be going on elsewise. Now, the next thing to remember is that you and your lawyer are a team. A lot of people go into the courtroom thinking, it's me. I will tell the truth. It's about me. It's not the case. Lawyers often have the opposite approach. They figure it's all about them. It's not. It's a team. Young people who go into the courtroom and say, this is the truth, and they yell and they scream and they know that they're right, usually don't look that good. Let me tell you about the first time I was on the witness stand. Before I went, the lawyers that I was working with prepped me, and they put me in a room and they asked me some tough questions, and we went back and forth, and they tried to make me sweat. They worked very, very hard at it. And when we finished after 20 minutes, I stood tall and proud because I had not given an inch. And they said, Michael, that was very impressive. You knew exactly what you were talking about. You anticipated our questions. You were strong. You were confident. And you commanded the stage. Don't ever do that again. Because what I hadn't done is I hadn't been likable. I hadn't been someone that anyone wanted to believe. But more importantly, I hadn't given my lawyer a chance to get in what he wanted. Because ultimately, it's his story. Ultimately, it's what he manages to put into his briefs to summarize what's been said. So I needed a different approach. Now I talk with a lawyer and I say, so what do you need from me? This is what I can say. This is what I will say. This is what I won't say. If you need me to say that, then we may have a problem. And there have been at least one case where the lawyer has said, I need you to say this. And I said, I can't. That's not the truth. He needs to know that in advance. So always work with your lawyer. Work towards where he wants to go. And if you do that, you're going to be much more credible. Remember that when you go forward. Now, you all know the oath, right? The truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Look at this slide. I say the truth and nothing but the truth. What happened to the whole truth? Realistically, they're not going to let you tell the whole truth. The opposing lawyer doesn't want you to be able to say anything you want to say. So he'll object that his response is irrelevant, hearsay, not responsive to the question. Don't try to tell the whole truth, but make sure what you say is the truth, absolute truth, and nothing else. Not only will they catch you, probably, because the opposing lawyer's done his research, but in addition, they will come back later. One of the cases I was involved with, the witness had been testifying for 35 years. And sure enough, the opposing lawyer looked at something he'd said in his first case and said, "Didn't you say 35 years ago?" And he read it, and it contradicted what he said in that case. Fortunately for Luther, the name of my colleague, Luther was smart enough to say, well, I'd like to feel I learned something in 35 years. But always be honest. And if you're like me, and you're going to go on the witness stand in the future, then realize, like Luther discovered, you're going to have to deal with whatever you say today, next year, or a year from now, or more years from now. And for those of you who aren't on the witness stand, I'm going to tell you the same thing. People will remember what you say, and they'll bring it back and throw it in your face. So always remember to be careful about what you say and tell the truth. You can say, I've learned something, but if they catch you in a lie, you're always caught in that lie. People do not remember isolated facts. That's not how the human brain works. People remember the way the facts hang together. And for that reason, you want to tell a story. You want to show how whatever it is you've experienced or whatever it is you're planning, whatever it is you are, fits together. Know your story. Know it as a story. Know how to make each fact work together. When you do that, the facts will hang together, and the jury or judge will want you to be correct. They'll want that story to work. And if one fact is a little weak, well, it fits in with the other facts around it, and they'll like that, and they'll move on that basis. Know your story. Know it well. Know it by heart. And then teach your story. Don't just tell it. Don't assume people know what you want them to know. Don't assume they'll put it together right. Teach them. Get them invested. If the judge wants that story to be true because he loves it, it feels right to him, he's going to take that story and he's going to make judgments based on that. So make him get invested by teaching him, making it fit, not just isolated facts. I'm an expert, right? I can throw out words like heteroscedasticity, linear regression, autoregressive correction. Great words, but they're words. If I show them a graph, when we did a trial against El Paso Natural Gas for monopoly behavior, we drew a graph which showed the behavior and the prices of natural gas as El Paso manipulated the system. The little changes in El Paso's demand for gas were drawn in red. Little tiny drops in red on the graph. And the judge, trying to understand it, said, so these little drops of blood are El Paso's purchases? As soon as he used the word little drops of blood, we knew we'd won the case. But the last thing you have to do is you have to defend your story, because the opposing lawyer will try to pick it apart. A lot of people are scared to go on the witness stand for a very simple reason. They're afraid that they're going to be asked questions they don't know the answer to. Me, for 2 weeks before I go on the stand, I ask myself every single question I can come up with. I look for every single flaw in my story, and I have a response. So when I go to the witness stand, am I nervous? No, because I know whatever they ask, I've already figured out the response. And that makes it possible for me to defend the story and maintain my credibility. When you go on the stand, do the same thing. Defend your story. Think about what could go wrong. And don't get nervous. Spend the time to be able to defend it and give the right answer. Keep calm. No matter what happens, keep calm. They're going to try to mess you up. That way you get nervous and you say things you don't want to say. You know, it's better to say nothing than to say something you don't want to say. That said, you can't just tell the truth. You've got to stick with the story. Remember, stick with the story. But keep calm. Nothing is to be gained by yelling from the witness stand, "But Your Honor, he's a liar. Your Honor, this is the truth." It makes you look like you're out of control. Do we trust people who are out of control? If you watch a person in a Toastmasters meeting or any political thing and they've lost control, do you believe them? Or do you wonder why they've lost control? So when you're on the witness stand, keep calm. No matter what happens, give your story with a smooth, credible pacing, and that will help you be believed. And that will help you win your case, your custody battle, your criminal case. It doesn't matter. That's where the secret goes. There's a tendency for us to get embarrassed by silences. And all of you know that, right? Anybody here who's married? Have a debate with your wife. And then watch what happens when she suddenly looks at you and just stares at you. And stares at you. And stares at you. You're going to come up with something to say because you're worried about the silence. It's the same thing in the courtroom, and the opposing lawyers will do it all the time. When you're nervous and it's silent and they're staring at you, you're going to have a tendency to say something wrong. Don't succumb. Sit back, wait patiently, and then the opposing lawyer will have a problem. Now, I'm going to tell a story here. A little outside my slide, forgive me. The first time I was on the witness stand, I was new, and I went up against a lawyer with 40 years of experience. This was the day of the retirement. He had a reputation for eating witnesses, especially young witnesses, for lunch. We were having a debate about whether or not the best way to determine the effect of weather on the demand for gas to heat homes was the high temperature for the day and the low temperature for the day, or a series of 8 observations every 3 hours apart. He looked at me and he said, "I'd like you to do a simple average for me. Do you have a calculator?" Grabbed the calculator. He said 0 and 100. Easy question. I played along. I typed in both numbers. I said, "Let me double check my work." 50.0. I took the time to do that for a reason. Then he said, "I'd like you to take the average of 8 numbers." Now he gave me 8 numbers, the highest of which was 100, the lowest of which was 0. And he said, "Could you give me the average of that?" And I smiled, typed everything in and said, "Would you like the arithmetic average or the geometric average?" He panicked. Lawyers never ask questions they don't know the answers to. And he had no idea what a geometric average was. Probably none of you do either. You'd have to be a real math wonk to bother, a nerd of all types, but it kept him off guard. And he ran around the room trying to find someone who could tell him what question he'd just asked. He finally found the answer. He said, the arithmetic average will be fine. And I gave it to him, but I broke his stride. And when I broke his stride, I was suddenly in command. I did a similar thing, to be honest with you, with my divorce. I was on the witness stand, and during the break, my lawyer said to me, "What is it you're doing?" I said, "Have you noticed that her lawyer has a tendency to make mistakes when she's mad?" "Yeah." I said, "I'm ticking her off on purpose." He said, "It's working wonderfully. Keep it up." Of course, I had to make sure that I didn't do it in a way that offended the judge, because the judge is the one who makes the decisions. Remember when you're on the witness stand. Remember in life everywhere, people, no matter who you're talking to, negotiating with, or anything else, that most arguments are legitimate differences of opinion between men of goodwill. They see things differently. Your opposition isn't evil. And even if they are, calling them liars doesn't build your credibility. Always assume, they see things from a different angle. They have a different theory. The judge will understand he's got to judge between different people. And if you stay calm and you explain why you're right, not because he's evil, but because my theory makes more sense, go back to your story. That is going to win you points. The jury is the same way. And remember who your audience is. It's the judge and the jury. Is it your opposing lawyer? Absolutely not. He's paid to oppose you. You're never going to convince him of anything. Don't try. Don't argue with him. Explain to the judge and the jury why he's wrong. In fact, ignore him for the most part. They don't have to like you. The opposing lawyers don't. My wife's lawyer didn't like me. She was mad at me. But the judge saw what I was doing, and he understood what I was explaining. When you are on a stage, people, if you're not in the jury, if you're not on the witness stand, it's the same rule as you've had there, right? Who are you trying to convince? Not the guy you're debating with, but the audience. Remember who they are. The last piece of advice is acceptance. You're not necessarily going to win every case. The law may be written wrong. The judge may hear the other guy's story is a little bit better. And to be honest with you, I have been in cases where the judge is biased. I've been in cases where I could tell when as soon as the judge was assigned if I'd won or lost the case. Accept it, don't fight, look good when you come to fight another day, or fight it outside in the appeal or anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever have to deal with being on the witness stand, and many of you will, remember these tips. And if you need help, feel free to contact me. There's my contact information. You can survive and thrive on the witness stand. Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, let's see. I guess I'm back here. I think I can do that. I will. We are going to ask for some comments from the qualified speakers in the room, so they can add their opinions and thoughts and suggestions. I would like to warn Jose ahead of time. I'm going to go for the announcements in between, so we'll have a little bit of time. Have him just a little bit of time there to have everybody think about it, and they'll put their ballots in. And Johnny will be here for his presentation. I think he said he's willing to take some questions after that, so we will go with that. And let us begin by making our suggestions. If you are a qualified speaker, we'll start with that. And those, if we have some time afterwards, we might hear comments from those who are also in the audience. Okay, do I have some thoughts and suggestions?
I'll go.
Michael.
I'll go, Tom. Aldevera.
Okay.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, I don't have everybody in front of me, so I'm just have to take your word for it.
Okay, yeah, I am QS. Michael, I've heard you speak before. Obviously, you have mastered the basics of Toastmasters, so I'm not going to dwell on those. The one thing that did occur to me is a suggestion is I felt that the title of your presentation was too general. How to win $1.4 billion. This could appeal to someone who's trying to figure out how to win the lottery or something like this.
Oh, that's 12.
Your presentation, from listening to the content, is an informational speech. So your title needs to reflect that and needs to really target the audience it's meant for. So a suggestion I have is how to be an expert witness that is in constant demand. And that's all I have to say as a suggestion. Well done. I look forward to hearing more of your speeches.
Thank you.
Hey, Tom, you're on mute.
I thought Anna was volunteering and she was just trying to catch my attention. So, okay, do I have any other comments from our QSs?
Charles has raised his hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
A couple of things I noticed as I watched the speech. This is my second time watching your speech. When you're using a PowerPoint presentation, set it as a slideshow so we're not being distracted by seeing all the slides on the side as well as other material on the other side. The other thing, as you went from slide to slide, you had to physically come up and click to the next slide. Invest in a presenter so as from a standing position, you can advance your slides and still stay in mid-screen.
Okay, is that it? Okay, all right. We will call on another person then. You guys don't have to just speak up because I say my screen doesn't cover everybody, so I don't know who's speaking up. So if you're a QS, please jump in. And when we've reached all those comments, then we will go on to any others.
Hey, Tom, this is Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, yes.
Yeah, so Michael, I appreciate you coming up here and speaking today. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very informative topic. I learned quite a lot as I was kind of listening, but I'd have to agree with Charles. The slides, and I know you were having a little bit of technical difficulty, and you actually addressed it in your speech.
Oh, later on.
And that became something that I started to look for then whenever I did that. And then what happened is then you started your presentation while you were still setting your slides because there was the awkward silence there that I noticed. And then just like Charles said, so between slides, what you would do is you would come forward, we would get a great look of your gorgeous looking tie and suit. And if there you push the button and then you would step back and then you would begin to present again. And I thought that was very distracting. I would have actually loved to seen you kind of wing it a little bit whenever you started having issues with it, just how you took that story off to the side. You knew your topic, but the slides I think kind of gave you the flow there. And it's always important to be able to have that backup because I think that's what really kind of detracted from a lot of the information that you had, because you're definitely experienced and a very well-versed speaker and everything, but I took a lot away from, I think, your message because of those distractions and everything. But I do appreciate you sharing and the very informative speech today.
Now, we also have two accredited speakers. Johnny can jump in too and make with thoughts and suggestions.
Oh, I'll share mine at the very end.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm busy
makes
keeping
sense.
up.
Okay, any other QSs?
Yes, it's Sunny. So
Okay.
Michael, I loved it that you stood up, that you stood back. I thought you were pretty well framed. In the beginning of your speech, you were actually cut off, like we were seeing right above your eyebrows, but then you adjusted and you were within frame most of the time. And I thought you really had good body language and gestures. Even when I see people standing up on Zoom meetings, a lot of times they still seem stiff, and you seemed very comfortable. And so I really appreciated that. I loved your stories. I definitely think you could have, it could have used a few more stories, just because this is one of those topics that people don't know very much about other than TV. And so to hear your personal experiences might have made it just a little more interesting, but a great speech. Otherwise, I always enjoy hearing you speak.
Hey, Michael, this is Mark.
Hey, Mark.
I have to agree with the other QSs in the room for everything that they said. The one thing I noticed about your speech, and I don't know quite why this really struck me, but this was a very male-centric speech. All of your heroes in this speech were male, and the few females in your speech were the enemy. And you have a room full of both genders. I don't know how the other ladies in this room took to the speech. I'd like their opinion, but even your slides that mentioned people were men, not people or lawyers or anything like that. So something maybe to think about. Maybe most of your audiences are men, so it maybe doesn't matter. I'll leave that to you.
Thank you.
Dr. Alexander, I'd like to.
Or yes,
put in
let's
my
hear.
2
We have a
cents.
QS from Hawaii, Diane. Let's hear from a woman now.
I'd just like to touch on what Mark said. When you started your speech, there were automatically some negative comments about females, and I thought, oh, it's going to be something like that. So it automatically turned me off, which isn't a good thing. So I agree. I think you should have more women, even the well, men is at 3 or 4. I think that was you have to be more gender neutral. And if you're going to talk about one gender, make sure you include the other gender in it. So I definitely agree with that.
Okay, any other? See, Karen's in the audience. Karen, do you have any thoughts on this? I'll let you off the hook.
Yeah, I actually was thinking quite a bit about some of the last couple comments, because initially it didn't land as a gender thing for me. And now that I'm hearing those comments, I'm absorbing that and replaying it in my head. So I hadn't caught that, and that's interesting. And I can see how that would land with respect to what I saw and how I heard your speech, Michael. And I've heard it more than once. I think it would be more effective if you didn't come from the perspective of you as the hero of the story. Yes, this is what you do, and you're the subject matter expert, but you're trying to sign people on to the idea of doing this and basically buy your book. And you've already established that you're a subject matter expert, but there's sort of shine off the apple in terms of an ego-driven message. And I don't say it nearly as eloquent as other accredited speakers, and especially Johnny being in the room in 2015 when we saw him in Vegas, and several other accredited speakers. They mentioned that there are ways to craft your message in such a way where you're engaging people that can be brought into that subject matter expertise in a safe and meaningful way, versus being on the outside with their nose pressed up against the glass, trying to hear how you did it, if that makes sense. So if there was a little bit of a pivot there, you might get a lot more book sales and a lot more people on board to what you're trying to share with them in terms of success in the courtroom. Thank you so much for enlightening us in the theater that you are in.
Thank you, Very. I'm not sure whether I've gotten a lot of all of our QSs in the room, but we certainly have to call on our one and only accredited speaker in District 12, Ed.
Yes,
Jump right
thank
in.
you. Thanks, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Dr. Alexander, really appreciate your presentation. Thank you. I would have liked to have known what you are the expert witness in what subject matter. If you mentioned it, I didn't pick up on it. And I would have, with a 20-minute presentation, I would have liked to have seen one segment where you actually took us through a courtroom type of event with the back and forth questioning, and what you as an expert witness on the stand, what you would have gone through, and just to kind of hear that from the expert witness's point of view, and have you show us specifically what mistakes you made and learned from, or what mistakes you knew how to avoid. So something just a little more of the real life courtroom experience of that theater would have brought the message home for me a little bit stronger.
Thank you.
Tom, you're muted.
Jeez, that's what I get. All right, so yeah, anybody that, oh, I see Suzanne Leonard is here. Is Susanna Lee? I saw her earlier too. Any comments, Suzanne? Mute.
I don't think I can improve upon what's been said. As a woman, I paid attention, and I wondered if I were going to have a part in this particular courtroom theater, and I didn't so much. But then I think that a man sees things from a man's perspective, but realizing also that there are more people in the jury box than men, and women are very much stepping into courtroom presentations of their own expertise. So I would have enjoyed finding us a little bit more in this speech. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, all right. And then Jose is here too. He's going to talk a little bit later, but let's talk about this event.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Excellent presentation. I too learned a lot of things that I didn't know, even though I was a manager for many years, and I had to, and about 2 or 3 times had to represent our company in the courtroom. And I remember being very uncomfortable. So you would have been very enlightening to me back in those days, but excellent information. But I do have to agree with Jeremiah. The PowerPoint presentation was not your friend, as you mentioned it at the beginning today. You probably would have been much better off letting it go right from the beginning when it didn't work, when it didn't happen your way, because you not being able to get the whole frame just on your point was distracting, and then you having to come up to the power to your screen every time you needed to change the slide was distracting. But other than that, wow, excellent presentation and very well presented. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Okay, thank you, Jose. I did ask about Susanna Lee. Is she able to, she was having some problem with her internet, so I don't know. Suzanne, are you here to comment? Okay, if you are, just jump in and interrupt me wherever you can. And as Connie's here, and she didn't say she had anything to add, but I want to give her an opportunity to, anything to suggest?
I guess I'm there.
You should be there. I don't see you, but you're there somewhere.
Okay, he says I'm there. So anyway, I
There you are.
thought Yeah, I thought the presentation was informative. I do agree with what's been said a little bit about the PowerPoint issues. But what I enjoyed also was, besides the information about being a witness, which probably most of us will not have that experience, that some of your tips really help toward giving a Toastmasters presentation or any kind of a presentation, when you talked about being prepared and think about if you were questioned about something, or, you know, don't take it too hard. If it does every time, you're not going to have all the success that you expect to have. So some of the information that you shared could just be used in general by individuals preparing for a presentation, both the preparing ahead and the delivery of the presentation, the theatrics and so forth involved. And I'd heard the presentation one other time, and I didn't even think about the male female aspect. So now I'm doing some more thinking about that. As a female, I didn't see it as an issue, but I have to think about that. But enjoyed your presentation and found it quite filled with good information.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. I think maybe the solution, Michael, is to make a few men the enemies and make all the women happy. So that might be a way to handle that issue then. But anyway, no, I enjoyed it very much. As I said, I heard you before, and I've heard you in debate, and I can see you using those same sets of principles that you gave us in debate, because as a new member of the debate club, you are doing an excellent job of being able to cover whatever side of the issue you get. So that's very good. And I think it's an issue that we might have. I always look at qualified speakers candidacy, looking for people who will have a product that is saleable. Is this something that I can send out to, a Kiwanis Club or a Lions Club or an Optimist or whatever it is, Rotary, that they will find some interest in your content. And along with what Connie was saying, I would say the same point, and that is some of those same principles that you were talking about making you an expert witness also make you more believable just over cocktails, or at a social event where you make sure you follow those same principles. You never lie. If you're making a point about an issue that you're talking about, make sure that you are informed and you know all the answers to the questions that might occur. So those same principles, I think, would apply to much other parts of life. And so therefore, maybe to allude to that, at least in a portion of your speech, to apply some of those same principles to other presentations. Connie talked about it being in a contest, but also just regular social interactions. We will call upon Johnny, and then I did see at least some people who are in the audience who are visiting, and we certainly want to honor our visitors because we're glad to have people here. And Johnny, you have some thoughts now to add to the conversation.
Well, like I said, in listening to the presentation, the one piece of the puzzle that I would have included in his talk was witnesses, both men and women, need to prepare differently. And maybe him giving recommendations. Here's how most men need to prepare. Here's a situation. Here's how women can prepare. I work with both men and women, and each need a different type of coaching to prepare for the moment. And so here, let me tell you about some situations and scenarios. And that way he's bringing both, as everyone's brought up, he's bringing both genders together equally, but yet showing the uniqueness of each and how he can help each prepare for the being on the stand. So that would be a story or illustration that I would weave into the presentation.
Yes, that's certainly a good suggestion, a good way to parry that concern. You were talking about dress too. One last thing before then I'll go to the other participants in the room, and that was you mentioned dressed in a formal manner. But if you have, let's say that you're a plumber and they call you in as a plumber to testify as to certain aspects of plumbing. Probably it isn't necessary that you come. My thought would be you wouldn't necessarily have to come in with a coat and tie. You might come in looking like a plumber. And maybe if you're testifying on behalf of strippers, you might not want to come and look like a stripper, but maybe fitting the part of, you're a truck driver, and there isn't any reason for you to, be really all dressed up, I would think. But look your part and make yourself believable no matter what that is. And if you're an expert witness on an academic area, you certainly want to look academic. Okay, any other comments from other participants in the room? I see Anna.
Thank you, Tom. Dr. Alexander, you are the expert. You were prepared, you were confident. The only thing that was causing you problem was the PowerPoint that you did not need, because you were informing us that by standing tall and strong and confident, and the passion that you have for the work that you do, your message came loud and clear. I do agree with some of the comments that other people have suggested to you, but overall, I thought that it was an outstanding speech. Just the part of the PowerPoint, it was not needed. I loved listening straight from your mouth, your eyes, your body language straight to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Now, someone will have to just jump up because, as I said, I can't see everyone's face on here. So any other comments?
Yes, Tom.
And identify yourself when you do that.
This is Marcus Van Halle.
Okay.
And I'd like to commend Dr. Alexander for the heart of his presentation, which I found to be fascinating. As a Toastmaster, I think can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, okay. I found that the thing I appreciated most about this presentation as a Toastmaster is the lesson that he learned after his very first 20-minute briefing by the attorneys in charge of that case. And they told him, yes, Dr. Alexander, you were masterful. You knew your subject. You answered you even anticipated some of our questions, and you handled it with great expertise. Please never do that again. That really struck home for me. And I think we would be very well advised to remember this, no matter what kind of presentation you're making. If you are not likable, if you're not relatable as a human being, you're missing the point. Thank you.
Tom, you're muted.
Daniel, you have any comments? I see you there. If you didn't hear enough, that's okay.
I've been on for about 12 seconds. I don't have any comments yet.
Well, I would think, you smart as guy as you are, you should be able to come up with an opinion in 12 seconds, but that's okay.
I can do that. But...
And another member of my debate club that we're proud to have here. And he's true. He can come up with an opinion in 12 seconds and sound believable even. And do we have any other comments from other members of the audience?
I have
and just go ahead and speak up. That's okay. And identify yourself when you do so.
May I speak?
I see Roosevelt.
Yeah, we can hear you, Tommy. Is it Tommy? We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Tommy.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Tommy Daniel. I am not a QS, but I have two observations from this Dr. Alexander's presentation. And first of all, I want to secure your permission that I may speak to you straight, candidly. I'm doing so from different backgrounds. In my first life, I was an attorney and spent countless hours in the courtroom. You came across to me as the kind of expert witness whose reputation would precede him. And so every lawyer that would come into that would have a case and you are involved in will have been warned that here's his style, here's his approach, and we would have prepared very fully for you to set you up before judge and jury and make you look very not credible because of how you came across. And I think it's just a matter of personality. I like what Johnny said, that witnesses have to prepare differently, male, female. There's so many nuances that go into it. But that's something that might happen in the future, which I would challenge you to watch out for. Your reputation would, I'm sure it is well known among lawyers in courtrooms where you give your evidence. And something might happen in the near future from a very young lawyer, because that lawyer would have prepared knowing your tactics, your approach. Secondly, I would encourage you to also read the room, customize your presentations. This presentation would be perfect for a classroom of law students or experts in a particular industry. There was nothing wrong with your presentation for that audience. The core of your presentation would be perfect for them. But in this kind of setting where people are coming from different places, we've spotted the nuances of gender fractions. We've seen some other things that rub people off the wrong way. So I think it was mainly a challenge of not meeting the needs of the diversity of participants at this meeting this evening that have made some of us feel like, oh no, this is not as relatable to our needs as we would have liked. But all the other things that were said about the style, about the presentation style, yeah, that's all well in order. My comment is mainly to the heart of your message, the content of your message. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. Do we have time for another comment or two from our audience? Anybody else?
May I speak? I'm only a guest.
Oh, yes.
Rosabel Young.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Dr. Alexander, thank you very much for that presentation. I'm actually an expert witness too, and I have to say, I probably didn't know a lot of the things that you presented, so I appreciate it. My own experience in being an expert witness is that if I were to give a presentation, I probably would just think of anecdotes of what I've experienced because it's been so much fun. I've been an expert witness in neurology for brain injury since 1998. But the stories I have to tell of things that happened are the fun part. You know, for example, the attorney that had hired me would forget their exhibits and I'd be rushing over to Kinko's at the last minute right before having to appear on the witness stand. Or seeing the court reporter trip over her cords and cables and all the papers go flying up in the air. Or having opposing counsel trying to cross-examine me and then my giving an answer that had the jury all rolling in laughter. I mean, because it's actually fun. It's true that it's serious and you have to take the oath and you have to take your audience seriously. And it's no fun having brain injury, of course. But when I think about it, since 1998, the experience actually has been fun, and that's why I keep doing it. And like you said, it's teaching, and I'm glad you had that very nice organized presentation because I think it made me realize what the components are of what I do. I've been doing it just kind of naturally. Of course, attorneys prepare me, and when I'm appointed by the judge, I better be prepared. But still, it's the fun that keeps me going. And I agree with Anna, and I think she suggested that maybe having some anecdotes because you're such a natural expert and so experienced would also have made it more interesting. But I also appreciated your very organized and educational approach for my own good as well as you know, for my future. So thank you again. A wonderful speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosabel. Do we have one more? One more, and then we better get going because we've got a full hour to devote to our accredited speaker that's here. Okay, all right, I guess, Sonny, you're going to try to put together a ballot for the QSs to vote on?
Unfortunately, the poll's not working, so just send me your vote through private chat.
Yeah.
And I'll do the tally and send it to you, Tom.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. And let's get to, I did say I would have Jose make announcements now to make sure that that he can go home and go to bed. No, he's not going to do that. He's going to be here till the end of the meeting. Jose, I know you have some announcements, numbers of things coming up, including contests, I think, in the 24th, right?
Yes, I'm going to let Suzanne talk about the contest, but I do want to mention a couple of things. Number one, we have our COT training on Saturday, so come and join us. You'll have fun, you'll learn, and you'll have the opportunity to help us as a judge in the contest. Number one. Then number two, we have an early renewal incentive for clubs. If your club renews at least 8 members by March 1st, we will pay you Facebook advertising for a whole week for your club. We will pay for that. The district will pay for that. So please promote, and let's get our clubs on the board. Okay. How much time do we have? I can have Suzanne talk about the contest.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Suzanne.
All right. Before she starts, I'll start with one quick thing, and I'm sure you always, district directors never show up at a meeting without reminding people to pay their dues. So I did see something about that you can now. I tried to a week or two ago pay for April dues, and they wouldn't let me without a lot of rigmarole. But you can pay dues now, and I'm sure we want to remind everybody to make sure you get your officers trained so that your club gets credit for that. Suzanne.
Yes. Well, Jose invited you to COT. Of course, that is our last COT training. And I've attended all of them just because there's a lot to learn. Like was pointed out earlier, there's some new changes in the rules this year, one important one. But I want to remind you also that our last opportunity to train all of your officers is coming up this next Tuesday. We've had 3 training opportunities, the individual ones, a wonderful turnout at TLI, and just this last Tuesday. So I am posting as you train your officers. Please take advantage of that time. It's important for us. So thank you, Tom, for the privilege.
Can we check at Leadership Central to make sure that 4 or 3 or how many officers are trained, so we'll know by Tuesday? Is it already posted there?
Your division directors have been directed to send all that forward, and I post as it happens. We're right now at about 51% trained officers, so we're looking forward to this makeup time coming up. So
yeah, I just needed. Yeah, I just wanted. I thought I had at least 4 trained in one club, and it shows 3, and I didn't know where to find out who did get trained and who maybe got credited. But
Your district director does. Here's the other important thing is that many have signed in and forgotten to put their club or their office. So I am tracking back some of those people that may have dropped off the chat or not known how to register for their attendance. So it's in progress, and your district director has all that information for you, Tom. Thank you for the privilege.
All right, I will make one more announcement, and then Johnny Campbell will have the rest of the meeting pretty much, and that should be okay. And we will be off and running, and so we will give his announcement. It is really quite an honor. I was really happy when Johnny said he could make it, and I really appreciate him taking the time to come and visit us. It's not as much fun as if he was in person, because I remember how much fun we had when he came in person to the district conference at Benedict Castle when we had our spring conference, and we had so much fun getting all dressed up. And what was the style of paraphernalia we were wearing, Connie?
Oh well, it looked like a three musketeer.
Yeah,
something like that.
like
Anyway, with
lords and ladies.
swashbuckling and feathers, you got a feather in your hat and all kinds of wonderful stuff. And maybe one day, maybe I'll even send out that picture. I have that picture available. I may send it out to
No, that's okay.
Okay, let me give you your announcement on Johnny Campbell. Johnny Campbell, keynote speaker, author, and founder of Rise Up and Win International, an organization that helps people develop the mental readiness so they can embrace change and turn their products and services into profits. Johnny is the past president of the National Speaker Association for the state of Illinois and an accredited speaker, a designation presented by Toastmasters International and held by certainly less than 100. I'm not sure what the number is, but less than that. In the world for excellence public speaking, Johnny is also a TEDx speaker. His talk entitled How an Enemy Can Improve Your Life, and the author of The Agent of Change, how to get people to embrace change without losing your mind or your bank account. Johnny currently provides groups with programs that will help them improve their performance so that they can provide a higher level of service to their teams, clients, customers, and communities. Johnny gained his change and sales expertise in the insurance industry, where he worked as a corporate trainer and participated in leading hundreds of people through multiple corporate downsizings and mergers. Based on Johnny's business results, experiences, and his ability to help his clients transition through challenges and succeed both in business and in life, called the Transition Man. So Johnny Campbell with Win the Crowd. Johnny Campbell.
Right. Hello, everybody, fellow Toastmasters and guests. If there is one thing that we can all agree upon, is that we are definitely living in times filled with conflict, challenges, and change. However, there is one thing that remains the same that can truly help us. And that's when we learn how to gain collaboration, cooperation, and that's only found when we are willing to develop our communication skills. To develop our communication skills to such a degree that we're able to persuade, to engage, and to influence people. And by having this ability, we're able to make that connection. Fellow Toastmasters and guests tonight, this presentation is about giving you a roadmap on how to craft and create great presentations. Now, my story about myself is pretty simple. I've been a professional speaker for the last 20 years. This is all that I do for a living. So I derive my entire income from being a professional speaker and being paid to deliver paid presentations. Prior to being a professional speaker, I spent over 10 years in the insurance industry as a claims adjuster. I sold insurance and I was a corporate trainer. As a trainer, that's where I really learned the value of effective communication, but also in helping people navigate the uncertainties of change so that they can continue to be more successful. And so that's really my story for tonight. What we're about is you. And that's why this presentation is called Win the Crowd, how to craft winning presentations. What I'm going to share with you here is a look behind the curtain of crafting a great presentation. You hear presentations, but I want to talk about what happens behind it. What's behind a great presentation? What makes it so wonderful? What makes it so great? What you're going to learn from me is a process of how to do that tonight. And it even starts with the name of my presentation, Win the Crowd. The Win the Crowd concept comes from the movie, The Gladiator. And during that time, during the movie, the older gladiator gives Russell Crowe's character a little lesson about winning. And he makes it very clear to listen to me, learn from me. I was not the best. I was the best because the crowd loved me. Win the crowd and win your freedom. What I realized was that when you craft a presentation, it's not for you, it's for the audience. And your ability to win the crowd is the key to your success, to give them what they want, to give them what they need from your presentation so that they feel compelled to do whatever you are suggesting. but you must first understand what it takes. And that's when I came up with my little creed right here. Before you can inspire with emotion, you must be swamped with it yourself. Before you can move their tears, your own must flow. To convince them, you yourself must believe. And that's by Winston Churchill. And that is really the cornerstone of every message that I deliver. You have to believe. In every message you deliver, you have to believe. The audience will gravitate to you if they know that you believe in what you are talking about, that what you're talking about is going to help them have a better life. It's going to improve their life. But you first have to believe that what you're going to say is going to help them. And that's where it starts. Here, we start with the typical anxieties that people have. Whenever you're crafting a presentation, there are these three kind of social anxieties people have, which are doubts, worries, and fears. And these are the typical things that people experience in Toastmasters, but then also they experience in their own lives whenever it comes to delivering a message, whether it's one-on-one, a group, or to a large audience. These anxieties will appear. But there is a way to overcome these anxieties and fears of doubts, worries, and fears. There's a way to overcome it. And the way that we overcome it is with clarity, confidence, and certainty. And by the end of this presentation, that's what you will gain from this. You will be clear. You'll understand how confidence is built, and you'll understand how this having that sense of certainty can make you a better presenter. But these are the three elements that craft this process here. And as a presenter, for those that have never met me before, I do tell stories, but I give lots of examples, illustrations, and metaphors at times. And I'm paid to teach people processes, a way of thinking about things, a way of doing things to accomplish their goals and their outcomes. My expertise is on helping people navigate the uncertainties of change. But in order to help them navigate the uncertainties of change, I have to craft presentations that allow that to happen. And that's what you're seeing right here is how I craft those messages. And at the core of every message, my focus is gaining clarity, confidence, and certainty from the audience. I want them to be clear, I want them to be confident, and I want them to have a sense of certainty that they can do what I am proposing. Before we get into it, I always show this slide right here, people who have found their voices. As I speak to groups and Toastmasters around the country and now around the world, people have a concern about their voice and finding their voice. That's why I show Dr. King, James Earl, Joel Osteen, Joyce Myers, Reagan, Orson Welles, Morgan Freeman. Everyone knows Morgan Freeman's voice. That's the voice of God. Everybody knows that. And then there's Maya Angelou. Each person has their own unique voice, but so do you. I meet people with accents. They have a very heavy accent, and they wonder, should they remove their accent, get rid of their accent? And I tell them, no. Your accent is your asset. It's what makes you unique when people listen to you. If you have a heavy accent and you believe that that accent is disrupting your ability to communicate, the key is to slow down when you speak. Not get rid of your accent, simply slow down. As you slow down, people will understand exactly what you're talking about. It's when you speed up too fast and you have an accent that words jumble over words and words trip words, and that's what creates the confusion. But if you're able to slow down, your accent is an asset. It makes you memorable, unique, and people really gravitate to the accent and they'll lean into it. So that's something that I want to talk about really quick with the voice when people ask me questions about it. Next point on here is this. The two reasons why most people's presentations fail to hit the mark. Now, whenever you are crafting a presentation, there are these two elements that affect your presentation and the success of your presentation. The first one is a lack of clarity. I've listened to a lot of presentations over the years, and if people aren't clear on what the outcome is, it's hard to craft a great message. You have to be clear on what is the actual outcome that's supposed to happen at the end of your talk. What is supposed to happen? And then you build the message back from that. Here's what people do. People start off with, I have a story to tell. I want a story I want to share. But that's not the beginning of a presentation. when you're trying to influence people, engage people, persuade people, you must know what the outcome is first. Stories support the outcome, not the other way around. And what I observe people doing is telling a story and forcing an outcome into the story, forcing some type of ending into the story. You start with the outcome first. So this lack of clarity as to where this thing is supposed to end is the first stumbling block. The next stumbling block is there's no sequence or system to your presentation. There's no process around it. How does this thing flow from what step to the next step to the next step? When you deliver a presentation, and I deliver presentations to all types of audiences, they are looking for some chronological order of things. What am I supposed to do first? How do I approach this situation? What are the steps? What is the way that I take advantage of this? They're looking for a chronological order and an organized way of thinking about it. And so that's why when I listen to presentations that have no sequence or systematic way, it becomes very confusing to me. And that confusion causes me to lose focus. So that's why those are the two most important things. There's a lack of clarity and no systematic sequence of way of crafting your message. It's not there. And even Mark Twain would agree. If you want me to give a 2-hour presentation, I'm ready today. If you want only a 5-minute speech, it'll take me 2 weeks to prepare. And that is the reality of it. The less time you have, the more preparation must be involved, because you have to cut your words down and get specific as to what you have to say. When you have 2 hours, you can talk and ramble and go on and on and on. But when the less amount of time that you have, that's where the focus has to occur. If someone is paid to speak, I get 45 minutes generally to go out and speak. So I have to be clear as to what I'm telling that audience and the steps they need to take and how they need to take those steps and be clear about it. And so that takes time to prepare for that moment. And as I said, the fewer moments you have, in other words, minutes, the more prepared you have to become so you can deliver that talk. That's why in Toastmasters, those 5 to 7 minute speeches are so important. You really have to hone in. You really have to focus. That's why pathways and the manuals in the past used to be very specific on what you were supposed to do for that particular project, because they know you only have 5 to 7 minutes. So the key to all of this is structure. And that's really the cornerstone of my presentations. I focus on structure over everything else. I don't focus on vocal variety. I don't focus on body language. I don't focus on humor. I focus on structure first, because with structure being correct, then I can find the funny in the talk. With structure, I can find the funny and I can put the right body language to it. When I have my structure, now all of a sudden I can find the funny, the body language, and then finally vocal variety. Notice these are all external things to your talk. Once you have your foundation in place, you build upon all these other attributes. It's not that they're not important, they're just not the first thing that you should be focused on. And anyone that's looking to become an accredited speaker, if you look at the evaluation form, structure is one of the highest categories in the evaluation process. And it's because it's the cornerstone of delivering a great presentation. So let me give you a quick disclaimer here. For me, I have never won the World Championship of Public Speaking. Never won it. I've gotten close. In other words, I've gotten to 2 district finals, never won it. The first time competed in the district contest, made it all the way to the district finals. I competed against a guy who was on crutches. He threw his crutches to the ground, took a step, and he beat me on the crutches. So I lost. The next time I competed in the contest, I spoke again, went all the way to the district finals. Everyone knew it was mine to win. I spoke against a lady, she sung a song and beat me. And I said, this is not American Idol. This is supposed to be a speech contest. But she beat me. And at that moment, I realized something. I said, I'm not a great storyteller, but I'm a great deliverer of content to help people improve their lives. And my style works in certain places, but not every place. And I realized that. And so I began to focus on just being the best paid professional speaker who delivers content that improves people's lives through change. As I did that, the accredited speaker program came into my radar. I didn't change anything to become an accredited. The accredited attached to me. I was already doing everything to be one. So the program anchored onto me. I didn't anchor onto it. Now, and I tell you that for a reason, is that as you grow as a communicator, you're going to develop a certain style. And your style is going to resonate with some people, but not everyone. And you have to get comfortable with that idea as you deliver your talks, that it's not going to work for everybody. But you have to realize that so that you're not trying to be upset when everyone doesn't love you. I realize my message doesn't fit everyone, but it fits certain people. And those are the audiences that I speak to. So that's why I wanted to give this quick disclaimer about this part of presenting. I'm not able to tell someone how to win the world championship of public speaking. I can't tell you how to win that thing, but I can tell you how to be a paid professional speaker because I know the process behind that. So that's kind of my little disclaimer. On with the presentation here in the sense of this. When you speak, sell, or offer your product, services, or ideas to people, here's the catch when it comes to presenting. You are asking them to embrace a change. Whenever you deliver a presentation to people, you're asking them to change first. So you've got this idea, this service, this product, but you have to deliver a presentation that helps them embrace the change that is required to embrace your product, service, or idea. And that's big for people and they don't realize it. You wonder why people reject what you're doing is because your presentation is selling the product, service, and idea, but it's not helping them embrace the change that is required to embrace your product, service, or idea. That's the difference. And that's what I'm crafting right here is a message on how to embrace the change that is required to accept the message. And in doing this, I actually created my own change management model. I call it the transitional sequential C model for agreement, acceptance, and achievement. It's my own model that I developed on how to get people to embrace the change that is required to achieve the outcome that they want. And what I'm going to do here is give you some components of it in this presentation here. That's why I call it presentation development and engagement process. The win the crowd presentation structural sequence. First key, know the outcome you want, understand your audience, choose the right words. Notice where the words come into play. That's not the most important thing at first. The outcome is the most important thing. Understanding the audience, then we put together the words that are necessary. Let's follow on here. So here we go, win the crowd. The first step in the process. Whenever you're crafting a presentation, you must know your target outcome for that presentation. What is supposed to happen? After they hear you speak, what is supposed to happen? Are they supposed to buy your book? Are they supposed to join your Toastmaster club? Are they supposed to join your organization? What is supposed to happen when they hear at the conclusion of your presentation? That's what you have to get clear on. And you build the program backwards from the outcome that you desire. The next principle on there is this. Understand your audience. You know, what does your audience want from your presentation? You have an outcome that you want, but what does your audience want from it? Do they want to be something, do something, have something, or achieve something from your listening to your presentation? Do they want to be a better witness? Do they want to do something? Do they want to have something in their life? Do they want to achieve something in their life? You must know what they want from the presentation. You know what you want from it, but you also have to know what they want. That's how we start winning the crowd. You have to know what they want. And once we're clear on what they want, then we say to ourselves this question: how does the audience put a value on that outcome? How do they value that outcome? If I deliver my presentation and they embrace the presentation. Is this presentation, do they value like this, listening to what this guy is going to say is going to make me more money? Is it going to save me money, save me time, empower me, entertain me, less stress, better life? What is your talk? What is the outcome that's going to, what is going to happen at the end here? How do they value it? That's the key. So if you're doing a sales presentation, of course you want them to buy, but how do they put a value on what you're selling? If you're Toastmasters and you're saying, okay, how do they put a value on Toastmasters? Well, I'm joining Toastmasters because my employer told me to because I'm a terrible communicator. But that's not the real reason why you're joining. You're joining because that's what you need to work on. The reason you're joining is because you want a promotion, and your boss won't promote you till you become a better communicator or a more effective leader. That's the real reason why you're joining Toastmasters. See, we have to understand the value of what we have to offer. That's the key, understanding what the value really is that we have to offer. See, these are the components that are inside of your presentation. You know the outcome you want. You know what outcome they want. You know what they value. These are the things you speak to, because I'm trying to win the crowd. So I'm speaking to this when they listen to me present. And then as I craft my message, as I'm working on my message here, I know my outcomes. I know what they value. I know what the outcomes they want. Then I ask myself in my presentation, what's going to stand in their way of taking action? What will stand in their way? Some form of doubt, worry, and fear they have. I offer them the opportunity to join Toastmasters. And they tell me, well, I can't afford it. And then then I realize, okay, that's going to be something that stands in their way. Let me explain to them how they can afford it. Oh, I don't have the time. Let me show them that we have clubs that are corporate clubs. We have open clubs, community clubs. We have clubs at different times of the day, on the weekends, Monday through Friday. Let me show them the flexibility of Toastmasters so that time does not stand in their way. See, people, when they have something, they might want what you have, but these doubts and worries and fears are real in their minds. And you have to think about that. What could keep them from taking action on what they want and the outcome you want for them? What could stand in the way? That's what goes in the presentation. That's what goes into the talk, is that here's how we overcome that situation. These are the things that sometimes people don't think about, but these are the things that allow people to embrace the change, to accept what you're trying to offer to them. Understanding objections. What stands in our way is not always what is our objections. The things that stand in our way are the things that we can work around, but people have objections to things. But sometimes the objections that we have are our own. Like, I can remember a time delivering a presentation to the Country Western Retailers Association. This was 325 alpha male cowboys who sell country Western attire, belt buckles and boots and everything like that. And this lady calls me up named Rose. And Rose says, Johnny, we heard about your talk on change and sales, and we'd love for you to come and speak. And so I tell Rose, yes, Rose, I would love to come and speak. And then she says, we are the Country Western Retailers Association. So these are people who are in the country Western apparel and they're cowboys. And then I told Rose on the phone, I said, Rose, have you looked at my website? Do you know what I look like? And she said, yes, but that doesn't, she said, yes, and we still want to have you. I said, great. The money was right and Johnny Campbell was flying. So I flew out to Denver. When I got out to Denver, I pulled in there, went into the stadium there, into the convention, and there they were, all of these cowboys walking around in this big coliseum with all of their Western gear and apparel on, just walking around. And Rose started walking me around. As she walked me around, she introduced me to people. And as she introduced me to people, I started noticing a trend here. And it wasn't a great trend at all. Whenever she would introduce me, they would look at me and they would say, huh, you're the speaker, huh? And I knew right there it might be a problem. Because every time she introduced me, they gave me this stare. And this stare made me become self-conscious of myself. And then suddenly Rose said, okay, Johnny, we're going to go ahead and get you ready to speak. You go behind the stage, get ready, and everyone will come into the big room and we'll get this program going. Well, I'm behind there nervous now. Now, I'm not supposed to be nervous because I'm the speaker, but I am nervous because the audience has, to me, the people I've met have not given me that warm, fuzzy feeling that everything's going to be okay. So I look out from behind the curtain and there they are, 325 alpha male cowboys with their hats on in the building, staring straight ahead. And at that moment, when I looked at them, at that particular moment, that's when I wished that God would have swept me up and took me away right there. But God didn't show up and I'd already cashed a check. So I got to go forward. And so when I walked out on stage there, my first comment to everybody was, if you're here to make more money and save money and grow your business in the midst of uncertainty and change, you give me a yippee-yi-yay right now. Yippee-yi-yay. 325 cowboy hats go flying up in the air. These guys are ready to learn. And I'm able to deliver a talk that helps them grow their business. See, the reason I tell you this little story here is because objections sometimes come from ourselves. I thought because of who I was, they would not receive me. See, here's the thing. It doesn't matter what your race is, your sex is, your sexuality is, your religion, your height, your weight. It doesn't matter as long as you are there for them. When you think more about yourself than you do about the audience, that's when you become self-conscious, and that's when objections start to build up in you. You're there for them. And as long as you stay focused on helping them, you can make it through any presentation if you will craft it correctly. But sometimes in our minds, we get so caught up in who we are and we forget that I'm there for them. And the more I think about being there for them, the more confident I have in what I'm there to do. And that's really the lesson about objections that I want to share with everybody there. But let me share with you when they were so happy at the conclusion of my presentation that they gave me a gift. And here's the gift they gave me. Hi, everybody, look at that. They gave me that gift right there, a Stetson hat. Now, I'm not a Stetson hat kind of guy, but, you know, look at me. I'm a guy from Chicago. That's what Chicago guys wear, but I got on a Stetson hat. And they gave me that as a gift for being at their event. And when I saw myself in this hat, I thought about an old TV show and a guy that was on this show. And it was this guy right here on the screen. It was from the Chuck Norris movie, Texas Walker Ranger. And this was Chuck Norris's sidekick right here. And so I realized that I had the same hat he had on and the same grin there as well. So I just show everybody that that hat comes from somewhere. I'm not a Stetson man, but that was the hat that I got. All right. Next thing on there is this. When you're delivering your presentation, know your environment. And here's one of the biggest lessons about knowing your environment. When I would always show up an hour early to every presentation so that I could prepare, I could get the sound right, I get the technology correct, things set up correctly. When you're delivering a presentation, this is your responsibility to make this thing work. So like for tonight, this was a tough one tonight for Dr. Michael. It was tough because he couldn't get his tech to work. And that's something that we all have to work on, is getting our tech to work so that it flows, especially if you need your tech to deliver your presentation. And here's the thing about presentations. I could deliver this talk without the slides, but the slides reinforce the message. You can listen to me, true, but we have all types of learners. Remember that. You have visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners. People learn in different ways. So it's important to create an environment where everyone can learn and receive. Some people want to take notes. That's why my slides have notes on them. Sometimes it's just a photograph, but I'm trying to appeal and engage with all the types of learners. When you're doing your presentation, you got to know your audience and who's sitting out there. Are they sitting in a keynote where they can't take notes? Or are they sitting in a workshop where they can write and take notes? You got to know the environment they're going to be in so you can craft your message to work for that environment. Next thing on there is this, a call to action. Know your close. How are you going to close out the presentation? That's not the outcome. But how do you close? How do you wrap everything up and close it out? Like you've got these concepts, these ideas you've been sharing, or this one great idea about a product, service, or whatever it is. How do you close that around? How do you bring that loop around? So when you're done, they say, okay, they have a sense of completion when they hear you speak. Of course, they may want to buy what you have to offer, but during the presentation, people are looking for closure. Think about movies, think about TV programs. Doesn't it drive you crazy when you watch a show and you realize they're going to put you on a cliffhanger at the end of it? You ready for the closure, and they say next week, see the next show. It drives you crazy because you are looking for closure. Well, in a presentation, we have to give them closure because we might not be back next week. More than likely, we're not. This might be your one time to speak, and this is your closeout. So you have to close the concepts and thoughts out and complete them. The third principle is choosing the right words. We've got our outcomes. We know what our outcomes are. We understand our audience. We understand what they value, what they want. We know what's standing in their way. We realize environment is very important to us. And now it's time to write. It's time to craft the words that go with the structure that you're putting together. The quote is simple. If you can't write your message in a sentence, you can't say it in an hour. My presentation is how to craft a winning presentation. That's my message, how to craft a winning presentation. So I'm doing a program here for 45 minutes to an hour, but that's the message. At the end of this, that's what you'll take away. He showed us how to craft a winning presentation. And a winning presentation is basically you saying, okay, the outcome you want to achieve, if it is achieved, that's a winning presentation. But that's what I've done here. My TEDx talk, for those that are familiar with TEDx, I did a TEDx talk. It was called How an Enemy Can Improve Your Life. This talk, I was selected. I didn't audition for TEDx. Someone selected me for my TEDx talk. And when they asked me to do the talk, they gave me 90 days to be ready for the TEDx talk. I spent 60 days writing. I wrote for 60 days because I was only going to be given 15 minutes. So I wrote for 60 days to prepare the content that I wanted to share in the TEDx. And it was about how an enemy can improve your life, which is how competition makes us better. 60 days I wrote, 30 days I rehearsed, and I used Toastmasters as my rehearsal ground. So I went to my Toastmaster club, and that's where I worked on my delivery. I wasn't worried about the delivery. I was worried about the structure of the talk. See, whenever you do a TEDx talk, you're sharing an idea. And the idea you're sharing is like a lawyer. You're arguing your position. Now, there are many ways to talk about competition, but I had to choose a lane and pick a lane of like why competition is great for business and life. That was my argument. That was my idea. And it took me 60 days to just narrow down that argument. That's why writing your speeches is so important. When I was in the speech contest for Toastmasters, I wrote my speeches. The clients that hire me, I write my speeches out so that I'm able to deliver the message they need to hear. Here's the thing. No one's paying me for my memory. They're paying me for my insight, knowledge, and expertise. That's why I write my speeches out. That's why I use PowerPoint. No one is asking me to get up on stage and have everything memorized. They want to be helped. They want to be healed. They want to be improved. And I need to be able to do that because that's what you do when you're getting paid to speak for audiences. You're there to help them. They're not there paying you for your memory. They're paying you for your expertise, insight, and knowledge. The two parts of a speech, the message and the stories. And I want to show you this here because I want you to have a context of how to think about things. The message is the idea and outcome you're trying to get across. The stories support the message. The ideas. The story is not the most important thing. I know you've been told about storytelling. The outcome and the idea is the most important thing. The story support it. So many speakers do it the other way around. They tell these stories, but the idea and the outcome is never clear. When you're trying to deliver a presentation to persuade, to influence, to inform, this I recommend is the process. If you're trying to entertain, make people laugh, tell jokes, then that's another different format there. But when you're trying to educate, persuade, influence, inform, the idea outcome is most important. The story support it, then your humor, body language, and props come into play. The idea you're trying to get across, that's the most important thing. So there you have it. The 7 keys for crafting a great presentation. Know your desired outcome, your audience, the objections, the time frame. That's always important. Know your time, how much time you're going to be given. Know your environment, know your close, and then know your message. These structural 6 are more important than your message at first, because your message is woven into the other 6. I repeat that, your message is woven into the other 6 above it. That's how you create a tight message that really gets to the heart of what you want to get across. Practice isn't the thing that you do once you're good. It's the thing that you do that makes you good. I've been a professional speaker for 20 plus years and I still rehearse. I still practice. It doesn't matter that COVID has occurred. I still rehearse. I still practice my content and my materials. It's how I get better. It's how I'm able to get across a message that makes a difference in people's lives. Although I can't show up physically, I'm showing up virtually in places. So it's important to me to craft and work on my message to make sure it gets across at the level that it should. Another part to understand is I know people have these backgrounds and all of these different things behind them, but as you can see, I don't have any of that. Because what I believe is that if you have a message that is really designed to help a specific group of people with a specific problem, that's all they care about. That's all that matters to them. I don't need to have anything behind me flickering or doing any weird stuff behind me when I know that what I have to say is what they've come to hear. See, when people are interested in what you have to say, they are engaged because they're like, wow, this person is trying to solve my problem and I don't want to miss anything. That's engagement to me. When you have an answer to someone's problem and you have people on the call, on the screen that have that problem. That's the key to engagement to me. I'm not saying you can't do all that other stuff, but I'm saying that I don't, because the audiences I target only care about their problems and me offering solutions. And so that's why I stay focused. In times of change, learners inherit the earth while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. This is Eric Hoffer. And the reason I share this with you is that each and every one of you here is a transformational being who has in their own hand the ability to create and do wonderful things. But a lot of times we forget that we have this power to create what we want in our lives and to embrace things. But how do we create? By learning. We learn, we educate ourselves, and we become more. That's what Pathways is really about to me. Pathways is a process, not an outcome. You learn pathways based on outcomes you want to achieve in your life. You look at pathways and say, which pathway helps me achieve my outcome and end game? Then pathways becomes more significant to you. Once you know what your end game is, the outcomes that you want, now pathways merely becomes the process in between. But you have to know the outcome you want. If you're doing it just to do it, you're not going to have any fun. But if you're doing it with a specific end game in mind, now it has meaning and significance to you. Also, when it comes to technology, understand this. Technology grows and develops over time. Pathways will improve and grow over time. I want everyone to think about it for a moment. Who currently has an iPhone 1? Nobody. No one has an iPhone 1 because technology improves and it grows and it develops. Hence with pathways, the technology part of it, it will grow, it will improve, and it will get better over time so long as we give it feedback and more information. It takes time for technology to catch up. So you got twofold there. You got the technology of pathways and the content of pathways. I've never heard anyone complain about the content, only the technology. So if we're focused on those two things, technology needs time to catch up. The content, remember, it's the outcome you want. Then you put pathways in front of that. Then the pathways has more significance to you. And that's how I think about pathways. Well, there you have it. A way to win the crowd here, a way for us to win the crowd. Now I have a question for you here as we get near the end here. What do you want to be, do, or have, or achieve? Your communication skill is a doorway to you becoming, doing, having, or achieving whatever you want. We live in a time of constant change and uncertainty, but it is our communication skills that allow us to persuade, influence, engage people, that allows us to become, do, and have what we want to achieve. It is the one skill that will never let you down if you will continue to develop it and hone it. But you've got to decide that you're going to work on it, really work on it. Not just, I got a speech in my pocket, but really say, I'm going to use what Toastmasters has given me and take it out into the real world. See, I'm very proud of Toastmasters, and I let people know, other organizations and groups outside of Toastmasters, when I get on stage, they know I'm a DTM and an AS. They know that because I'm proud of it. And what I want to show them is what one can become by being a part of Toastmasters, so that more people see the value of Toastmasters. But you have to know what you want to do, to be, to have, or achieve by being a part of Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a vehicle, but you got to know what you want. So what I did was put together some things there for those that are interested. Of course, I have my 2 audio CDs that are audios that people can listen to and hear on how to speak off the cuff and never be stumped, and my Win the Crowd. And these are audios. And that's $20. But what I also brought was this, and this is a big packet that I would bring to every district here. This right here is not just audios and presentation training. This is a blueprint here as well. The presentation that I just gave you, I created a template that one could follow step by step. It's 50 slides. I tell you what to put in each and every slide as you do your presentation. I lay out how you help people embrace the change to accept your idea. So I created a presentation with PowerPoint slides that you just add in your photographs and your message to. That's why it's called the Done For You template, because it's a PowerPoint, and all I did was write in what goes here. Put a slide here to help people overcome doubt. Put a slide here that calls people to action. Put a slide here that helps people understand the value of what you have to offer. So I script out what goes in the PowerPoint slide. All you need to do is put your content or photograph there. I record the presentation you're listening to now. This presentation actually is about 80 slides long, so I have a longer version that you can listen to, so that everything I've talked about here remains with you. And of course, more audios and CDs for more training and coaching. Normally it's $300 some, but this is virtual, so it's $147. And you have lifetime access to this. So if you want it for yourself or you want it for your club, it doesn't bother me. You can share it with whoever you want to share it with. I have no feelings about it at all. I want more people to enjoy this material and grow from it. To win the crowd, it's $20. The Win the Crowd packet is $147. I dropped it down to $147 until the 6th of February. Here's how you get it if you're interested. On your phone, because everyone has a phone, you text this number, 352-707-9945. and then you put in there in the message the word speaker in there. So you text the number, you put this word into your box called the speaker, and you hit the button. Or you can call me and order or email me. But if you do this right here, right now, this box will appear on your phone. Your name, first name, last name, email address, and your mobile number. Please make sure to put the dashes between your numbers, because that's how your number is being recognized by the mobile service. The phone number is over here on the right, as you can see, 352-707-99. You see it right there. That message box, put speaker, this box will appear, you fill out the information, and that will take you over to my course materials, and you'll be able to access them. My final thoughts are simply this. Every presentation I deliver, there's an underlying motive that I have for it, whether it's change, how to teach someone to be a speaker, how to be a better presenter. My underlying motive is to inspire you so that you can look at me and simply say, because of you, Johnny Campbell, I didn't give up. I pursued my dreams and goals. I used your material to help me, and I didn't give up. A lot of times what people need in their life is someone that will stand there next to them in the journey.
Art came.
And encourage them to not give up.
Oh.
And that's the one big thing that I have lived by, is to create materials to help people to not give up. And these materials will keep you going so that you won't give up. So once again, here are all the materials that are available to everyone, and it's really your choice. But I want to thank Tom, and I want to thank everyone for having me on this presentation and allowing me to do what I do. And I'm going to close the talk and then answer some questions here, but I'm going to close the talk with my famous phrase. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Johnny Campbell, and I am called the Transition Man. And I want you to always remember this when it comes to success, money, and happiness. The elevator to all of that is broken, but if you're willing to do the work, the stairs to your dreams are always available. Thank you.
That's cute.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Let's give him applause, even if you can't hear it. You'll know it's there. So anyway,
Well, I'm
we
happy
certainly
to-
appreciate your doing this. I'm going to give them a chance to do some questions, but I want to make sure that everyone really paid attention and know that next month we meet on the same date. So because that's what happens when you have a February. And we will have 2 accredited speakers speaking then. From one is Rochelle Rice from New York, and she'll be speaking from 7 to 8, and Connor Canine from, you'll enjoy his brogue accent. And I agree with Johnny that I always, when I have speakers that I'm coaching, accent is an asset. If you and slow down is exactly right. You had so much meat in your presentation. I'm hoping Suzanne Leonard listened to that when she wants to go to a corporate office and convince them how important it is, and know those roadblocks. All those suggestions that you had are both perfect for a club, talking new members into joining, and for starting a new club. Now we will open up to questions from the audience.
Absolutely. Those are all the things that you have to craft so you deliver a great talk that gets what the outcome you're looking for. Yes, anyone, you get questions about this, being a professional speaker, the accredited speaker program, whatever you want to ask, let's go.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This is Marcus Van Halla calling. I want to commend you for the slide you put up there about 10 slides back. It showed Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal in a scene from the movie, one of my very favorite movies of all time, Analyze This. And it reminded me immediately of the favorite line that came from that movie. It was when Billy Crystal, no, it was Woody Allen that was confronting the crime boss. And he was, they were both surrounded by the crime boss's henchmen. And he just learned that the crime boss is going to be, or somebody is going to be making a big move, and they're going to be, they're looking forward to a big fight. And the line is, well, first of all, that's the most idiotic suggestion I have ever heard in my life. He looks around and he says, and I say that with all due respect.
That's, you know, a lot of people struggle with the pathways. And I had an opportunity in 2018 when pathways got rolled out. I was a keynoter at the International Convention in Chicago. And so I promised Dan Rex at the time that I would say something about pathways that put it in context for everybody. And so that's why I use the iPhone 1 analogy and technology and knowing the outcome you want.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people have a lot of trouble with pathways and the acceptance of it. So that's why you see Billy Crystal and De Niro, because I'm definitely doing therapy on that subject. I'm doing therapy.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
I'll go. Yes, Al DeVera, just a kind of a recent QS. I want to thank you, Johnny. Your presentation was timely. Just a little bit of background about me. Over 20 years doing computer software development, burned out, spent 5 years as a certified personal trainer, helping fellow stressed out individuals. Became really sick in 2010, got tired of the eat less, exercise more methodology, which doesn't work. Got into fasting, developed a partnership with a clinical professor with the Keck School of Medicine at USC. I've developed my own protocol, being a computer guy, and I'm doing incredible stuff with it. I'm convincing physicians every time I meet, and I'm doing a presentation to the to 2 assistant professors with Johns Hopkins School of Medicine next week. So, and I started a fasting group where I'm helping people, women with hypothyroidism, one lady with binging behavior, all who are looking to fasting to cure their various diseases. So obviously I'm a content guy. I believe in the research, but to produce results. That's my computer background. So if you have one piece of advice to give me, I would love to hear it.
Well, with the doctors, of course, they're going to be driven by the data. So having statistics that stand out in your presentation are what they're going to gravitate to, because they are definitely going to gravitate toward the research. And the women or whomever else is looking to learn fasting, for them, it's a twofold process. They need to really understand the journey of fasting, what it's not, what it is. So helping them understand the journey, and then you working with them to be clear on what their goal is, the outcome is that they really want. That becomes the most important thing there when it comes to the individual. But for the doctors, they are definitely driven by the data that supports your argument, because you're making an argument to them why this makes sense, and they're going to look for data to support your argument.
Okay, good. Thanks. That's validation, because I provide blood panel results over a period of time combined with pictures of my journey.
Mm-hmm. And also with the people that are fasting, if you're able to show them some before and afters, if that's not a conflict, so that they can see the start of the journey for someone and the end of the journey for someone, if they're willing to give a testimony to you on their journey. Because so before and afters are very powerful when it comes to helping people in the health arena.
Yeah, I've created a YouTube channel and I have a testimonial playlist. So I have one from a fellow Toastmaster. I don't want to reveal because he's kind of private, but he lost 28 pounds from hearing me speak in August for my QS on his own.
Okay,
and so, okay, so good. I'm glad to hear this validation from you, because
you're on the path. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Johnny.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, here's one I'll throw out to everybody here, is that on the screen, you had my phone number and email address. If you call me, don't be surprised if I answer the phone. Just so you know, don't be surprised. I am the janitor and the president of my organization, okay? And I'm more than happy to talk to each and every one of you guys and answer your questions. So just know that I'm accessible in that way. Or if you want to email me, that's fine too. I'll reply back to you via email. So I just want people to know that, that this doesn't have to be our last time talking or connecting. If you want to talk, you want to connect, just reach out to me. So that's my invitation. I'm not going to say it again now, but that is my invitation to everyone so that you don't feel that I left you out.
Your opening comment when you were speaking in front of those 345 cowboys and the humor that kind of diffused the nervousness that was involved with maybe you and your audience reminds me of, and you probably remember this story, this joke about Phyllis Diller coming to a group and she had she was in a cast and a crutch and she was just afraid that was going to destroy the humorous presentation she was about ready to present. And so she opened with the line, "For those of you who have been reading that book, The Joy of Sex, there's a misprint on page 256. And that let everybody quit worrying about what she was about to say, and they went on and enjoyed the rest of the presentation and forgot about the fact she was in a cast. So,
hey, absolutely. Like I said, how do I describe this? I'm a straight man on stage. Like, I am funny and entertaining, but I don't tell jokes a lot. I tell funny illustrations and examples. And so when I get on stage there, I have to defuse it just like I have to defuse that. So usually it's an observation, an insight that makes them laugh that I normally go to. And that's my way of kind of loosening everybody up and getting them relaxed. Also, something else I want to tell everybody, when you are the one delivering the presentation, and I know this is so tempting, I have groups that say, Johnny, you don't have to wear a shirt and a blazer with us. Just be relaxed. The answer is no. I am the professional. I'm not you. I'm not you, and I'm not trying to be you. I'm here to help you. And because I'm here to help you, I need to look different than you. You see what I mean? Everybody, I don't go for that. I don't care if they're wearing golf shirts and shorts and getting ready to golf after I speak. I don't care. I'm still going to be in a suit because I'm there to help them. So I just want you guys to understand that don't allow that.
That's true.
Don't let that seduce you when you're doing presentations, especially when Toastmasters goes to do corporate events and you're trying to get a corporate club on. Here's my insight for everybody. When you do an open house for the community, you can have people that aren't that good and okay be a part of that community event, because people need to see someone just starting out, because they say, oh, that's me. I'm learning just like them. But when you go corporate, you only bring your A game people. That is the best that you got. And you leave the rest at home, because the corporation is looking at it from that context of like, you don't bring beginners, you don't bring people that have no clue. You bring your most skilled presenters to present to the corporation so they can see what a real meeting looks like when it's run really well. And I tell you that because in District 30, when I was there, that's what we would do. They would have me and 6 other people. We were their corporate membership growth team. And we come into corporations to close them. And I was the last guy up. And my job was to get them to sign on the line. So my talk was to close them. And that's why I'm saying this to you, because it works. When you bring your best to corporate, you can get more of them to sign on and bring clubs in. But when you do community, you don't want that because it's too intimidating. So you bring you can allow other people who are developing to be a part of that one.
Yeah, very good.
It's just a strategy.
Very true.
Johnny, I do want to talk about that because I think really gets back to your original point about knowing your audience. Because as a computer developer guy, I've wandered in a lot of different industries. I've worked with Microsoft. I've worked at Paramount Pictures. And in those industries, especially if you show up in a suit, instant distrust, especially in software. So it's sort of like, because we're all about content and results. And too many times, especially, in the mainframe days, that's how we developed a suspicion of corporate suits.
Right. Here's what I'll say to that. Sometimes you have to take away objections from people out the gate. you take it away from them. When I became, I'm gonna give you an example of this. When I became an accredited speaker, I was getting evaluated on my talk. And some people told me, they said, well, Johnny, your talk is fine, but you talked a little fast. You might need to slow down. And I said to myself, I'm not slowing down. I got 45 minutes and I got to get this across like I would do for a paid gig. So when I got on stage, I said, hello, my name is Johnny Campbell. This is my talk. I got 45 minutes to speak. I'm going to talk fast. You need to listen quick. And I went. So I took away the one thing that could be held against me. So when you tell me about that situation, you say, look, hello, everybody. I know I look like I got on a suit like I'm going to a funeral, but I'm not here for a funeral. I'm here to help you guys grow.
Absolutely. Open it up.
Acknowledge their bias. Acknowledge it and make fun of it. And say, you know what? I'll even take off my jacket for you guys. But show up in a suit. I'm going to show up in a suit and I'm going to take their objection away from them. And hopefully the content will prevail once I do that small takeaway at the beginning, if I know they've got a bias up front. Just a thought, my friend.
Thank you. You would do well at Microsoft, wouldn't you, Ted? Because we're all about fire hose of information in that industry.
All right. Well, I hope that you get some support from our audience members on your products, but I really, really appreciate your being here. And maybe sometime when we're actually meeting in person, we'll get a chance to see you in person sometime.
Well, I would love to come back and see you guys again. I actually had a chance last year to speak in Hawaii. So I'm always game to go back to Hawaii again, but I would love to be back out. Actually, you never know. I'll let you know if I make it back out to California. I actually have a gig in August for an insurance conference in Southern California. And I'll have to let you know if that goes down or not. And if it does, maybe I can make an appearance if you guys are having physical meetings at that time.
By the way, we are communicating with some of the other speakers bureaus around. I'm in good contact with the Speakers Bureau chair from Hawaii, and she may want to get you to come and speak to her Speakers Bureau too.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then also, and I know I appreciate you hanging loose here. If you want me to talk about the business of speaking, then I have a presentation on that. It's called The Professional Speaker, Truth, Lies, and Money. And it's a talk that I deliver to bureaus and people that want to be speakers on what it really takes to build a business and be a speaker. Because I've been a full-time speaker for 20 years. This is all that I do. I don't have any part-time jobs or anything else. This is it. And so I pretty much can tell you what it takes to make it because I done made it 20 years now. So.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And let's give that round of applause, however we do it. And thank you again for being here. And as I said, I will contact the Speakers Bureau chair from Hawaii, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you get an invitation.
All right, then. Well, guys, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
We'll see you.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you, John.
everybody. Thanks for sticking around. Next month, same time, same station. I think I'll go ahead and just end it.